The old mansion loomed before me, dark and imposing. Its windows, like empty eyes, stared back at me. I took a deep breath and stepped inside. The air was thick with the smell of decay, a musty odour that sent shivers down my spine. Dust covered every surface, evidence of years of neglect. Cobwebs hung from the high ceilings, catching the faint rays of sunlight that pierced through the grimy windows. The silence was deafening. It pressed against my eardrums, amplifying every creak and groan of the aging structure. I wandered through the empty rooms, each one colder and more desolate than the last. Shadows danced in the corners, playing tricks on my eyes in the dim light. As I moved deeper into the house, a sense of unease settled over me. It was as if I were being watched by unseen eyes. I paused in the middle of a grand ballroom, its once polished floor now hidden beneath a layer of dust and debris. A massive fireplace dominated one wall, its cold and empty hearth a reminder of forgotten gatherings. I could almost hear the echoes of laughter and music, but the silence held firm. The hair on the back of my neck stood on end. The feeling of being watched intensified. I turned slowly, scanning the room, but found nothing. It was the walls, I realized. They seemed to press in on me, suffocating me with their presence. I could sense the history of the house, the joy, the sorrow, the secrets it held, but there was something else, something darker. It was in the very fabric of the building, a palpable evil that made my skin crawl. As I continued my exploration, I noticed a change in the silence. It was no longer empty, but filled with a low hum, a subtle vibration that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. At first I dismissed it as my imagination, but as I moved from room to room, it grew louder. Then I heard them. Whispers, faint and indistinct at first, like the rustling of leaves. They seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. I stopped, holding my breath, straining to hear. "Help me," the whispers seemed to say. "Get out," they hissed. The voices were filled with a chilling desperation, a plea for release from some unknown torment. Fear coiled in my stomach, cold and tight. Section 4. Screams in the darkness. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, morphing from hushed pleas to tormented cries. I covered my ears, but the sound penetrated, echoing through my skull. The house was alive, and it was in agony. Then the screams began. Blood-curdling shrieks of terror and pain ripped through the silence, bouncing off the walls, seeming to come from everywhere at once. I stumbled back, my heart pounding against my ribs. Panic surged through me, threatening to overwhelm my senses. I had to get out to escape this nightmare. But the screams seemed to hold me captive, their intensity growing with each passing moment. I ran blindly, desperate to escape the cacophony. The floorboards creaked and groaned beneath my feet, the sound swallowed by the deafening screams. Each room I stumbled into was the same, a prison of echoing torment. Then I heard it, my name, whispered at first, then shouted, screamed by a chorus of voices. The walls knew me. They were aware of my presence, and they were calling to me. Fear turned to ice in my veins. This was not just a haunted house, it was something far more sinister, something that knew my deepest fears, my darkest secrets, and it was using them against me. I collapsed to my knees, my senses overloaded. The screams seemed to press against me, suffocating me, driving me mad. I was trapped in a nightmare, and there was no escape. The whispers, the screams, they were all around me, inside me. I closed my eyes, willing myself to wake up, to break free from this torment. But the voices only grew louder, closer. The walls were alive, and they knew my name.